Welcome to Electripreneur Secrets. I'm your host, Clay Newmeyer. With me, as always, my esteemed co-host, Joseph, the sales bot, Lucani. We were just talking about some fantastic stuff in the background in the exclusive access that you could be having in our Facebook group. If you're with us there, please say hello, and you could be joining us live 5 days a week. But we're here to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level service. We enjoy leading this movement, helping all electricians become electricpreneurs, become premium service providers. This vision has become everything for us. I literally wake up and pop out of bed, and the first thing I want to do in the morning, I have to stop myself. First thing I want to do is grab my phone and start engaging with you guys.
Oh my God, it's the same thing. I thought I was like one of the only ones, but I'm love that you and I are the exact same way. First thing, 5 a.m. comes across, my phone is in my hand. I'm like, who messaged us? What do we got to do? Who do we got to respond to?
Yeah, we got to call a little timeout on that. Just for the balance, Joseph, I don't want you to do that, and I don't want to do that either. Can we agree that we should resist that a little bit?
All in motion, say aye.
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 Agreed.
All
Okay.
right.
But guys, that's how passionate we are about this. You heard it live. That was not rehearsed. Nothing is. We got rid of all the flashy shit to just show up for you 5 days a week. I want to continue doing that. Today is no exception. In fact, if you just heard a little noise, today I have to apologize. My computer didn't update and I can't tell what's making noises anymore. It's a
all
problem.
good. It wasn't in the background. I didn't pick up on it. And if I didn't pick up on it, probably no one else is going to either.
Perfect. I'm going to keep going. So the show we have for you today is exactly, at least to the best of our knowledge, ability, and experience, how to get in the minds of your clients, understand and engage with the conversations that are happening in their heads so that you can better understand their needs and serve at the highest level. When you do this, what's going to happen next, Joseph? What are some of the benefits if you could pull this off, get better at this one thing alone?
So realistically, everyone that is an electrician usually doesn't like salespeople. And the reason we don't like salespeople is because salespeople offer things that they think the customer wants and not things that the customer would actually benefit from. Our particular approach is different because once you can get in the shoes of the customer doesn't know electrical systems. They don't know what's available and what's not available to make their lives improved. You do. So by getting in the shoes of the customer, you recognize that you become the conduit to a solution that they didn't know was available to a problem that may not have been top of mind for them. But if you can do it the right way, not only are your tickets higher, but they're thanking you and referring you as a result.
Yeah, I love that. We even have this written into one of the things that we teach. It's our marketing equation. We also call it the conversion equation, where really when we're reaching people, when we're attracting people, when we're talking to people, we're trying to, at least in marketing, interrupt, engage, educate, offer. Interrupt, engage, educate, offer. And this engage piece is really what we're diving into today. I said it before, I just want to highlight this again, how important it is to create this PFM, we call it, pure freaking magic. You ever had someone say to you, God, it's like you took the words right out of my mouth?
When I've dialed into the process and I've gone almost on autopilot on it, yeah, it happens a lot because what we do is we create those moments and we allow the customer to become the focus of everything we do. Very rarely, and this is a sad thing to say, but very rarely are people that we meet happy, like truly happy in their lives. And when you can identify ways to not only make them smile, to make them feel valued, to make them feel heard, and to make them feel respected within their own four walls, you become something so different than just a service provider. You become someone they trust, like, and respect. And for good reason. You're not lying to them. You're just telling them the things that you're recognizing, seeing at face value. And people will always appreciate that.
Yeah, I really love that. And so if you have those PFM moments, just to continue on there, I want you to do something. I want you to smile and tick a little box in your head, because what you've just done is connected with someone on a deeper level. You've just elevated the experience and elevated your relationship. And that's a moment of pride. Smile. Enjoy that moment. It's like you took the words right out of my mouth, or exactly what I was thinking. Wow, you really completed my sentence there. Not that you want to be interrupting, but those are all things that imply that, hey, we're there. We're on the same frequency.
I completely agree.
Important place to be. All right. So, assuming we can get to this place,
Mm-hmm.
and really that's what we're kind of here to discuss. What's the gap to get there?
So this is what I recommend needs to be done, right? Can I just dive right into it if that's okay?
Let's do it.
All right. So many of us say, as service electricians, oh, there are some calls we can't make options for, right? And the number one thing that comes up, and why I use it as a reference, is the ceiling fan, right? The customer calls you, you go to their master bedroom, and you find out that there's a fan in a box at Hampton Bay or Harbor Breeze or something that they have that got from Home Depot, and it's there and it's ready. And there's already a fan already existing. And people say, well, what do? House is brand new. I went into this exact situation once, and I want to tell you how we were able to recognize it. Now, if you were part of the VIP, you got to hear a little bit about how, my wiring, my internal wiring is, and how I sometimes pick up more than the normal person would. And that's sometimes a strength and sometimes it's a curse. But in this place, it's a benefit. And I want to tell you how.
All right.
What ended up happening was I walked into the same exact master bedroom, saw the fan on the floor. And the customer says, I want to replace this. And my brain immediately started going with what kind of options are there? What I noticed was that the fan was remote controlled. There wasn't a remote bracket by the switch, right? But it was sitting on their bedroom countertop, right next to their bed. So what does that tell you how they're using it?
Remote.
It means that they're using by the remote, but very likely what it means is that they need to walk into their room in the dark, because if it's remote controlled and you turn the switch on, it does nothing. So let's say they get out of work, or once again, you're in New York and it's 4 o'clock in the middle of the winter. It's dark there too. You're going to say, you know what happens? I have to go through my room in the dark, maybe get my phone out and just shine my flashlight, find the remote, and hopefully I didn't turn the switch off, press on, and if it did turn off, go across the room back, turn it on, now it works.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a premium solution?
No. And I want to jump in there and just say, like, of many of the things that you bring up, this one's one of my favorites, is you became very aware of the different times of day in your options approach. And I think
Right.
this is a huge nugget that many miss. It's kind of like when you go to look at a car. I remember as a kid, my dad saying, we never look at a car in the rain or at night. Well, why? Because that's when everything's covered up. It's kind of the opposite effect in this case. We should always be thinking about the different times of day, the different weather, how these little things that are happening all the time are going to impact the lives of these clients, because it might not have been something that they would have brought up or thought to have brought up. They might not have even known or connected that you could have solved that problem.
So much so, in fact, I remember this customer was they at the door, they were telling me they were just looking for this and they were trying to make sure they got a good price. They didn't say cheap. They said good price. So already you're at a ceiling fan call. They bought the fan, and at the door, they're saying, I want a good price, right? Yeah. But the problem is that it doesn't matter what they're asking for price-wise, if at the very least you can think of how they're going to use it. So what I ended up doing was I created a range of choices for them. And the option that they chose was actually my top option. What it was I told them we're going to remove the remote. And I walked through the reasons why, and that, right now, based on how I see it on your bed, it means that you're using it there, which means that you're not able to control it the right way. So instead, I cut in a 3-way switch. Actually, sorry, it was a 4-way. There was one switch on the door. There was one switch to one side of the bed. There was one switch to the other side of the bed. The one where the remote was the wife's side of the bed. And I said, let's give her the control. So she had the master dimmer, but now they didn't have to worry about anything. They had a built-in speaker bulb so they could enjoy it comfortably. Everything was fully dimmable. They never had to use a remote again. And we spackled and painted all the cuts. It was several $1,000s worth of work. But she said, I never even thought about that. You're right. I hate when that happens. Yeah, let's do that one. I had that bottom option of just, I'll change the fan out for $350. Like, that existed. But if you can't think of how to solve your client's needs, like their real real needs that maybe even they don't know about, you're not going to be able to separate yourself. And if you can't separate yourself, you'll always be in that apples to apples race to the bottom. This is your way out. This is the rope you climb.
Yeah, and I want to touch on this just in brief, because what you're saying is when you're arriving, they want the best price.
Correct.
That's what people focus on. We've touched on this before. It's important to take people out of that mode, because anytime they're in that mode, it's like pre-delivery mode. It's that, what am I looking for here? I'm at a loss of words, but it's being stuck in this fear of sales.
Correct.
Most people have that. This is that line in the sand. We're facing each other and they're thinking, please don't be salesy. Don't try to sell me anything I don't need. And you're thinking, please try to, don't see me as a salesman. Let me help you in ways that you haven't imagined yet.
Can I actually tell you a way to handle that response? Because I'm sure everyone else is in that kind of situation where they're like anyone who's in the live, anyone who's listening, how many of you people have experienced it where the customer says, I'm looking for the best price. I'm looking for a good price. I'm looking for a cheap price. It almost always happens at the beginning of the door, right? You barely made it into the foyer and they let you know. Sometimes you're going to try and come up with these salesy lines like, well, what does that mean to you? What are you trying to do? How does it? Instead, you always start with gratitude. Thank you, Clay. I really appreciate you letting me know that. It means a lot that you felt enough that you could tell me that. Can I ask you a question? Reframe. Say, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly, because you're saying you want a good price. But do you mind explaining a little more of what that means to you? Just there in that situation, it pauses the customer's thought process, because they were going to say something along the lines of, well, I don't know. I want to make sure that's not going to cost me a lot. Okay. We haven't even looked at anything yet. We're still standing on the front door. Would you be opposed if we kind of just backed up a couple of seconds and let me see how I can serve you? Realistically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to create you a range of choices, from the finest that money can buy to the most bare bones you could possibly do. If we were able to find one you found was affordable, what would happen then?
What would happen then?
Exactly. And that's how you bring it to a conclusion. The first step is you have to get the customer out of that mindset. When they're thinking, I want a good price, what they're thinking is not what they're saying. You need to get them to say what they're actually thinking, what they mean by that. When you understand what they really mean, now you can see the root cause and you can position yourself to serve them at that level. They asked me for a good price, but when they asked, what does a good price mean? They were like, well, we don't want you to be a sales guy. We want, we don't think it should cost too much. And I did the exact same thing I told you to do. Great. Let's find a way I can serve you.
Disarmed. Let's get on the same side of this line and look at the problem together. In fact, let's look at all the problems together. Because again, I don't think, and I've been on record saying this a few times, I don't think you can be too forward in letting people know how you can help them, ever. Sometimes people get on calls with us and they're like, I just want to be clear. Do you help electricians? I'm like, yeah, we do.
Mm-hmm.
It seems almost counterintuitive that someone wouldn't be able to know that, because of how much we say, hey, we're here to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level service. And we talk about clients on the inside. And so there's an assumption there that they know the problems we can fix. Mm-hmm. But the problem is still that we're speaking generally in this context, right? You could have someone come to your house and do a panel change, and they might not connect that you could also fix their bathroom fan.
That's true. And realistically, the term you were looking for is professionally and politely assertive.
Love it.
It's the goal of pretty much saying, like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know as a master electrician, I'm supposed to go in your home and ensure your safety. But safety, a lot of times in a home, especially a brand new home, isn't the main thing that's going on. There are also some times where some of you might say, you know what? I walked into a brand new home. There's nothing they could need. Okay, let's reframe that. There's nothing that's going to burn their house to the ground within the next 3 years. But when you think about it, did they have a hand in designing this home? Was it the way that they wanted it to be? There was another example of that, if I can touch on it. Is that, I hope I'm not monologuing here.
No, I wouldn't contribute and just say, yeah, likely not.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? People in new homes have a big pain in the ass list too. And you
Mm-hmm.
could be solving that.
Exactly. There was a situation I remember going to in a brand new home, right? And everything was all done. They even did wire loops. They didn't backstab it. It was like, it was a great house, but they wanted us to install, I think it was, they wanted a new chandelier in their living room. But at the time, I realized that this big L wraparound couch that covered 3/4 of the walls. And I remember thinking to myself, how are they going to get their phone charged? How are they going to plug something into it? All the outlets on the whole wall, the only outlet that was available was one on one corner and one on the other, but it was all on the same wall. So what I offered them was, why don't we take these outlets that are physically located? I can raise them so they're above line of where the couch is going to be. Each one of them is going to have a built-in USB port, and then you can plug your phone charger right into it. In fact, we even plugged in a retractable cord and plugged it into the USB on their behalf. So all they had to do was just stretch, and then it retracted right back. You
Nice.
have to think for the customer, because sometimes they don't know what's available to them.
Exactly. Otherwise, they're asking blind. And have you ever had that moment after you talk to a professional? Maybe it was a lawyer or a doctor or accountant or
Mm-hmm.
a tradesperson in your home for many people. And afterwards, you recognized, I should have asked about this too.
Actually, yeah, I can think of something immediately top of mind. If you want to
Right?
dump into,
Let's do
so
it.
I did a lot of HVAC training in my day. I actually do. I even have an EPA license to do HVAC work, like, but that's not my area of expertise. I remember going to a trade conference once when I was more involved in it, and they were telling me that a lot of times in the home, like the ducts, the physical forced air ducts, are not sealed correctly. So
Mm,
often, what ends up happening is, because it's not sealed correctly, it'll allow fiberglass to create a negative pressure and physically blow out, which means when you look at your vents, that's why there's so much dust on it. Because of that, that's actually where I came up with my fiberglass on the ceiling fan idea. Because I looked at it and said, well, if this concept applies here for a trade that's not our own, does that explain why ceiling fans blades are always dusty? So I did some tests and I found that it actually was the case. So because we learned something from outside our own trade, we were able to apply it in a way that no one else had really thought of. And now we can serve our clients at a drastically higher level.
I would just want to add to that. Like my
Mhm.
little brother growing up, we bought a special vacuum cleaner because of the asthma related issues he was having in this old house, which was all my family could afford at the time.
Mhm.
Right? There was a lot of issues with kids and asthma and different breathing problems. I mean, that in itself, knowing that fact about those ceiling fan blades and the fiberglass in that. And actually, I think you said on the inside in one of our client meetings that you can actually drop it in a glass of water
Correct.
to
There's
prove
literally a
this.
test. So, fun little fact for anyone else. If you ever go to a ceiling fan quote and you see that there's dust on the top of the blades, and the customer doesn't believe you that it's fiberglass, and they say it's just dust, it's just cat hair, what you can do is you take a glass of water, you drag your finger across the top of it, you get a good amount, not just a little bit, get a good amount, and you put it in the water. What will end up happening is fiberglass does not dissolve and it floats. So if it's just dust, it will dissolve. But fiberglass is like a sponge. No matter how much you push it down, it'll always bob to the top. And it's a visual example. The customer sees this, and you're like, well, clearly it's not dust. So are you comfortable breathing in the same material that they make cigarette butts out of? And now suddenly it's not I needed a ceiling fan because I wanted more light. Now it's, oh my God, we should change all the ceiling fans in the house and have them professionally resealed and have you come by on a yearly maintenance program to ensure that everything's taken care of.
Absolutely. One of the reasons I love that example is because we see, I want to be careful about calling anyone out here, but we see
Mhm.
electricians who do decently well in our field. And we've all recognized these different brands and people that do this,
Mhm.
but this idea of fear mongering
Mhm.
and this idea of selling on concepts that customers don't understand.
Mhm.
What I love about this example is it's simple to see. It's a real safety thing, and it's a quality of life improvement. And all we're talking about, it's not a huge, massive upsell. It's literally that stepping stone that cares for your client at the higher level and builds trust.
I completely agree. Because at the end of the day, think about what the customer would have to do otherwise, right? Like, you know how you mentioned your brother had asthma because the home had breathing conditions in it, right?
Yeah.
Imagine in today's industry what might have been brought in. Oh, I've got these plug-in air ionizers and we're going to get everything to work. Or we're going to invest in IEQ and we're going to make sure you have all the air scrubbers and you're going to get all these fancy technologies. And I'm not trying to shit on that. It's not that they're bad products. But the thing is that if I have fiberglass or heavy dust or pet dander sitting on every ceiling fan in the room or every ceiling fan in the house, and I turn it on and now it's spinning around and throwing it around the room, would you blame them for coughing? I know I would. How many of us cough when we go into attics? And yet, why do we wonder why we sneeze when we go into some of these homes that are so dusty? If you can actually seal it, like literally the way to fix this, 1 can of silicone, 1 can of spackle. Literally all you got to do is remove the 1/4-inch gap around the octagon box, seal it, open it down, put a couple of drops of silicone into the boxes where the screws would go, and now you have an airtight enclosure. Once the canopy goes into place, now there's nothing to create a negative pressure from, and as a result, you won't have it on your blades anymore.
Love it.
It's not complicated. It's not crazy complicated, but it's not something that we are educated on.
For sure.
Now you are educated, so now it's up to us to take action on it.
Nice. I love that. So we went on a bit of a tangent today, but we did begin with really getting in the customer's heads, understanding the things they're thinking about. And I think a big part of that is we touched on was the things they're not thinking about, the things you could be missing on. As we roll this up and kind of go into action items for these guys, do something actionable here.
Yeah, I got some things off mine.
Right. One thing I do want to throw in and make sure it's a part of is that different times piece. The same situation at night, the same situation in winter, the same situation in summer, same situation, sometimes weather, right? If you're getting outdoors, we're talking hot tubs, same situation in every different environment that's going to happen recurringly.
Exactly. And if you think about it, that sometimes, I mean, you mentioned hot tubs or anything else. Someone has outdoor lighting, outdoor pathway lighting, right? But it's on an old-fashioned mechanical timer. Soon as daylight saving comes, what is the customer going to do? They're going to take the dogs out, physically the attachments, I'm using trade terms, but they're going to take the attachments out. They're going to reposition them. They're going to change. They're not going to do that. They're just going to say in the winter, it comes on at 6 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock. And yeah, it's dark for 2 hours, but we'll make it happen. Why are we not offering digital timers that automatically correct for daylight savings? They exist. They're out there. They're a little more premium. But if we offer it the first time, now you can explain that struggle to the customer. And now they won't have to deal with it anymore.
I agree. It's huge. All right. So action items officially. Okay. Jump in here. Help me out.
I got your back, brother. Action items, it's hard to say, hey, think like me, because that's not an easy thing to do. What I'd rather say is for an action item is try to think as if this was your house. What I mean by that is this. Imagine that you had to live here. When it's your house, like, have you ever heard the expression, Clay, looks good for my backyard?
Yeah.
We let the worst things in the world go because we can't see it from our house.
Yeah.
So imagine if I lived here, how would I be using this? When you can suddenly now take ownership of the property, you'll think of things that the customer might not have thought of, or in the best case scenario, that they have thought about but didn't think was possible.
Yeah. No, I really like that.
So that, I'd say that is the bare minimum action. Own it as if it was your own property. Treat it with the dignity that you would treat your own home. And as a result, your customer will not only pick up on that, but you'll be in a better position to come up with more relevant and on-code options.
Yeah.
Now,
they also say, just quick, sure, like the mechanic drives the worst car.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The carpenter's got the ugliest shed. We all, and in
Yeah.
fact, I got a funny one to add here is my dad's a fuel truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
Run out of gas in his personal pickup more times than anyone else I know. Just doesn't want to be bothered fueling up. Does it all day. My electrical, probably the worst on the block. That's the guilty admission. But as you're living your life in your house, whether it's great, because that could be the other side of the coin. Some electricians take absolute pride in their own homes and take it, top shelf and then invite people over. Great marketing strategy, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But as you're feeling those pains, make note of your own pains in your own home and audit your customers. All right, go ahead, All Star.
No, I figured honestly, man, that was a great thing to add on to it. I really, really, really appreciate you touching on that because I feel like not enough people really can get in the right mindset. So as far as the all-star action, I want to say let's take it a little bit further because in order to come up with these options, the ones like I'm talking about with your 3 ways and 4 ways or your mechanical versus digital timers, you need to be aware of the material that exists, right? Like you can't just come up with some random product that doesn't exist and then try to sell it. So the all-star action is not only can you be someone who understands the customer's home, but are you doing the product research? Are you subscribing to the catalogs? Are you on the Facebook groups? Are you, when you do those boring NEC code certification requirements we got to do every few months, there's always a guy with a trade brochure. There's always someone who's got free materials you can put into a backpack. When was the last time you talked to that guy? Ask him, hey, if I had a customer in this situation, do you know any product that would solve that? They'll love to talk to you. No one wants to talk to those guys. They will talk to you all day and they'll give you free information, free catalogs. So if the bare minimum action is to get in the mindset and say, I'm going to treat it like I live here, the all-star action above that is I'm going to at least find out and know top of mind what products exist so that when I see a problem, I don't have to say, I'll get back to you with a solution. I'll be able to fire one off top of head.
I love that. As you were saying that, it's stretching my mind a little bit.
Mm.
And I want to add this for you guys. If it's recorded, it's trainable.
Mm-hmm.
If it's recorded, it's templatable. It can be a template for future. I want to challenge you that as you're going through these home deficiencies and quality of life upgrades and engagements in the problems that your clients are having, to actually start a log for yourself. Job type, ceiling fan. Fiberglass, test. Cup of water, fiber, right? Take notes on this stuff and just keep a running point form log like Cole's notes on each of these installation types, opportunities, and demand, so that as you're growing with this stuff, you're also going to be able to teach it and train your staff on it. Because that list is only going to grow. And if we keep relying on intuition and just what we do the most, then we'll continue to have the results that we get the most. And that doesn't necessarily mean improvement, does it?
Not always. It's just so many things can go behind that statement. It could be service, it can be enhancement, it could be professionalisms, it could be things that went wrong. It could be anything, but if you can record it, one of my financial mentors always taught me what gets measured gets managed. And if you have a log, you can measure it and you can track it and you can report it and you can improve it.
Yeah. So let's even spin that with a question here. I just want you to explore this thought with us for a moment. Let's stay with the ceiling fan job. Someone calls you, demand call, ceiling fan's not working, right? You've been here before. I've been there before. We've all kind of done this job. It could be just the standard model delivery, or you could reflect on this list that's been growing with every ceiling fan job you've done, every other option that you've offered that people have taken and even not taken, and the whys behind it. If you had these notes and you were to reflect before doing this type of job, and then add when you're done doing that type of job, how much better at that type of job would you be?
Man, I love that. I feel like that's some, if nothing else, like if you guys didn't listen to anything, you want to cut it the last 5 seconds, that's a nugget right there.
The reality is, it's these little efforts daily that compound to that result. that vision we just went into, where you have that list and it's ready, that only happens if we start by making it today and continue to add to it every time we do that job. That's the only way that works. Now, one last thing, we're going a bit long today, but we touched a little bit on an objection handle today. And that's something you've been excited about. In fact, we already talked about it in the pre-show, guys. We're going to do a little repeat, spin the record again, because those listening to the podcast, I want them to get excited about this too. So yesterday I got a voice memo from Joseph, excited because we just finished teaching, well, really design and presentation of options at the kitchen table, of course, in our program for demand calls. And so you were saying, hey, following presentation, we're going to see objections and need to now eliminate and handle these things. So tell us a bit about why you got so excited and sent me that message.
So I love what I do. I really love what I do. And I feel like the knowledge and experiences I've had can really help a lot of you out there. So whenever I design a lesson, I just go into hyper focus and I literally say, this may be the last time I talk to you. I want you to get the best from it. But I realized that objections, there's multi-tiers of objections. There's so many different levels. And there's actually 3 main level objections you're going to overcome. So I started in saying, you know what? Level 1's the most common. Let's just talk about that for now. And it ended up being 7 pages just on level 1 objections. There are so many other depths to the subject that we can cover. And you bet your ass I'm going to be covering them. But it was just one of those things where I got so excited because I realized that there's so much to give on this one particular thing that I know for a fact that if you listen to these lessons, you will be able to take nuggets away and they will help you close more sales same day.
I love that. Thank you for sharing the excitement and the news about what's coming down the pipe. Now, if you were one of our listeners, followers who wanted access to this objection training, it's not released yet, but just so we can get you on the list of people looking for objections training, I want you to go to our Facebook group, join us live, and put it right on the wall. #objections. If you're listening to us live right now, I've already typed that in. You can copy and put that same word in the chat there. We're going to follow up with you and explore that a little bit more and see how we can get that to our listeners. I think we've provided a ton of value once again here, Joseph. Tomorrow, or the next session you guys will hear is going to be a fun one, a little bit longer, interviewing all things me, how I arrived at this point, how we came together again from another view, another perspective. I'm honored to be here, by the way.
The honor's mine, Clay.
Guys, we're here live with you 5 days a week to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level service. If this episode was something you feel could impact others, please share it. Let them know about the Electricpreneur Secrets, Electrician Podcast Radio, and have them join us too as we rise the tide to float all boats. Cheers to your success.